Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you on the screen of the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. So make sure you stay to the end to find out which pair that is. But first, we'll go for the trades of the week. Like always, again, I didn't actually take any trades this week, so it'll be fairly quick, but I did have a trade that I was carrying over into the week from last week, so I'll go over that quickly on NZJPY. But I didn't actually take any trades this week. It was full of news this week, so I was only waiting for a very high quality setup if I was going to get into a trade, and it had to be at least an hour or two before a major news announcements. Any closer, I'll disregard it altogether. So yeah, I didn't get it. There were some setups this week, but they were kind of average. They were okay setups, and I knew with so much news, it's best just to walk away unless I find a high quality one, which I didn't find this week. So no trades entered this week, but I did exit a trade on NZJPY from last week. I entered on this 4H candle there, stop loss above the resistance. I did exit the trade earlier around here, around about break even, because price was making these higher lows, so the likelihood was that we're going to get a break of the resistance. Obviously, in hindsight, prices respect the resistance and it came back down again, would be floating some profit. But again, I did follow my plan and price was coming into that level with those higher lows. So maybe looking back, I could have been a little bit more, could have been less aggressive, maybe given it some more room to play out because price was still below that resistance. So maybe I could have done that looking back, but again, I was following my plan there. So, I didn't do anything wrong, but maybe I should have given it a bit more room. And again, should have, would have, could have, doesn't always help us in trading. Well, never does anyway. But yeah, that's the only trade I had coming into the week. But there are some very nice setups coming for next week, which I will be paying attention to. A lot of dollar pairs, some yen pairs, some crosses I'll go through in a second, of course. But up first, like always, EURUSD. So we had a lot of news this week. You can see big surge to the upside, followed by a big move back down. The news definitely did its job this week, taking out people above here and below here. We've been screaming for a pullback for EURUSD because it's been so corrective. A lot of the dollar pairs have been like this, so corrective. And I do expect to see eventually a breakout, either to the upside or to the downside. I've been looking at major pullbacks for EURUSD. I've been looking at price, coming back to this area here. On the daily stroke 4H, looking for us to come back into this level, next potential higher low, and possibly see some more upside for EURUSD, because again, we're still in this bullish trend. Higher time frames, yes, we are definitely still bearish, but for now we do have this bullish structure which is still intact. We know we have broken through the minor structure here. These higher lows here, the market is breaking through, so that does tell me that there's more downside to come, most likely. So down around these areas here, 1.07, I will be very inclined to look for some higher lows and some buy confirmations to take EURUSD back up again. We've got the 0.618 around that area there too. So there's a lot of confluence here for EURUSD. Let me just clear this, make it a little bit cleaner for you guys. So yeah, there's a lot of confluence down there. Personally, for me, long term, I'm quite bearish on EURUSD. So I do think the buys here may only be temporary, might only see a move like this and the market starts coming back down again. But nonetheless, it's still a great area of confluence and definitely an area that I'll be looking at to see what type of reaction we can get for EURUSD. So for me, price is having a bigger pullback now that I can get that entries further down where I wanted it, around the 1.07 mark from past couple weeks now. Actually, I've been calling for that level. Looks like price is on its way to that level. So looking for buys here. Target wise, the obvious target would be back to highs. Probability may not be on our side there. We do have key levels among us here. Key support there would be time resistance. Key resistance through here. Market could struggle around there, and obviously back to highs. So manage the trade accordingly. These are key levels where you can look to take partials, exit the trade completely. Look to manage the trade, or try and push for the highs there if you want to maximize your risk to rewards. But yeah, the higher it is, obviously the less chance price will get there. But this is the setup I'm looking at for EURUSD. I do think eventually we will have a bigger reversal and see the market start plummeting. But for now, I'm still looking at those buys until we get those larger breaker structures. So 1.07, great confluence there. We'll monitor price action there. Probably midweek, see what happens there, and we'll be looking at buys, targets 1.0825, 1.0925, and also 1.103. So that's the plan for next week for EURUSD. Okay, so now on to USD JPY. So this one, not much this week, a lot of consolidation. I was actually looking for some sales for USD JPY, didn't manage quite to catch it. Was looking for a push into this level of resistance. We were kind of consolidating just underneath, and we had some really lovely confluence coming into that area there as well. So I was actually looking for most of the week just for one more run to the upside into that area and then get the sell-off, but didn't quite get there. The market kind of had the sell-off without me, and now it looks like we're breaking through both of those trend line and that resistance there. So it does look like we could be seeing some upside, more upside for USD JPY. Again, zooming out onto the higher time frames, I do understand that the market is still quite incredibly bullish. We've had this huge bullish run. This easily could be the corrective leg, the retracement leg, and we could actually be seeing continuation for that. I was expecting USD JPY to come and retest this structure before having that next bullish move, but again, the market's not perfect, don't necessarily have to test that level. It would be nice, it would be logical as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So we could be seeing the reversal right now. The fact that we are breaking through this resistance here, which the market's had numerous tests of, you can see all throughout there, struggling to break through for the past couple of weeks now. Now it looks like potentially the market could be breaking through, and obviously we can see the market's had a tough time breaking through the trend line as well. 1, 2, 3, almost 4 there as well. Now it looks like it's breaking through that as well. So it looks like the market could be looking to actually reverse and see some upside with the higher monthly momentum. We've got one low there. Now it looks like potentially another second higher low there. So it does look like we could be seeing some upside. Again, if I do invert the chart, it looks a little bit more natural here for the sellers. Retracement, third lower high, and then could see a big dump to the downside. So yeah, for USD JPY for me, buys are looking pretty good. I wouldn't look for the buys just yet in terms of the break and retest of this area. It hasn't quite broken it enough for me. We've seen it many times where price just about breaks it, a key level or trend line or whatever it is by one candle, then potentially just comes straight back under in the next couple of candles. So I want to see a little bit more mileage, see if this impulse momentum can continue. If it does and it wipes out these highs here on the left, and that tells me that, okay, yeah, most likely price is actually going to go bullish, wait for some retracement, and we'll take up buys to the upside. Target is probably back to this level of resistance, or even this area here could be a nice little target to have. So USD JPY, the buys are looking good. They're not quite there yet, as in I'll look for the break and retest, but if I do see a bit more upside, definitely if these highs on the left go there, that wick high on the left there goes, then I'll be looking for the break and retest. Nice little pullback onto this level. Great resistance will be turned support. It's around 130.500. We'll look for some entry confirmations on the hourly time frame. We've got a nice little target there. Could just take the profit there and run, or potentially look to push the trade a little bit further, maximize the risk reward, and back into a key level of resistance and into that major lower swing high. So it's up to you where you want to push the trade to. Obviously, further it is, like I said before, less probability price gets there, but nonetheless still good targets to aim for. So use JPY, waiting for a little bit more upside, but looks like we'll be looking to long the pair next week going forward, and area of entry we'll be looking at 130.500, and targets we'll be looking at 134.456 for next week. Okay, so now on to USD CAD. So USD CAD is still making consecutive lower lows and lower highs. I'm still bearish on this, despite a lot of dollar pairs have kind of flipped, broken through structure, seeing a momentum in the opposite direction this week. USD CAD has seen a little bit, but the lower highs are still intact. As we can see here, we've got lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and potentially another lower high. So we haven't quite got the breakup structure yet for USD CAD to actually start following the rest of the dollar pairs. So for this one, I can only look for sells for the meantime. If we start breaking through this high here, then yes, I will look to flip my bias for USD CAD and then start looking for the longs. Maybe on a break and retest of this area here, because the market is quite corrective here. We had a really nice impulse move to the downside, and I thought we could really see some more continuation to the downside for USD CAD, but we've kind of failed. We're kind of running out the momentum. You can see we are seeing a few sharp bearish moves, but they quickly dissipate into very corrective moves. Sharp momentum, then it kind of dissipates into a corrective move, which tells us the sellers are trying to push price lower, but the buyers are still kind of holding price, and the market is failing. So this corrective behavior as a whole, normally does indicate we'll eventually see some upside. So for USD CAD, the buys do look good, but we need to break through structure, which hasn't happened yet. So I can only be looking for sells, and there is a good sell setup. Again, whether it'll play out or not is up to the market, and obviously that's our job, not necessarily predict the future, but just take the good setups and move on to the next one. So I can see a really nice setup here. Again, lovely confluence in this area. First lower high, second lower high, coming to that third area. Lovely resistance turn support. This is like our prior fake out, of the resistance. We had first test, second test, third test. This was our fake out. Now price is back there again, and we've got beautiful confluence there for whip out the fib as well from the low to the high of the move. We've just about spiked into the 0.786 area there. So if we can see some rejection there come London, I do think there'll be some nice sells. Again, targets can be back down at these lows here. It can be back down at these lows over here, and it can even be back down at this level here. Risk reward might not be as beautiful. I mean, not too bad, depends on your entry really. But yeah, these are the kind of three levels that do make sense to target. But again, it's up to dollar what dollar does. And again, it's not really our job as traders. Traders, not our job to predict where the market's going to go. We leave that up to financial analysis and market analysis. We're traders first. Sure, we can analyze the chart and guess where price will go, but all we're looking for is just trade from area to value to area to value, and this is definitely an area of value. So yeah, sells for me at the start of the week look pretty good. We'll see what type of structure we can get. If it just breaks through on the market open and it does take out this high here on the left, and we see a higher high, then this is the next opportunity I'll look for, the break and retest of 1.34. 1.34100. So I will be looking for these buys here if we do go and break through, but again, only if we do break through. And I'll switch my bias around and start looking for big buys to the upside, and targets for this one will just be back at this prior high there on the left. Nothing too crazy, just take trading back to resistance. Could go high, of course, but that'll be a logical place to look to place a TP. And yeah, this is the first setup I'm eyeing up for USD CAD, and that'll be the second if it doesn't hold. So yeah, USD CAD, all eyes for me are 1.341. We'll be looking to sell from there or buy from there, depending which way the market is holding the level. Targets for the sells will be back down the price swing lows, and targets for the buys will be back up to the price swing highs. So that's the plan for next week for USD CAD. Okay, so now onto Euro Pound. So Euro Pound looks like it's finally picked a direction, breaking to the upside past this high here and this high here as well, with a really strong impulsive move there. So Euro Pound has been added back to the watch list for potential buys here. It's been very, very corrective. It's been consolidating. I've been, throwing shade on Euro Pound for the past 2, 3, maybe even longer weeks. But now it looks like we are breaking through that and seeing some clear upside momentum with clear structure, clear higher highs and clear higher lows. So that for me fits all the kind of criteria I'm looking for a setup. Now I just need to find a place where we can start looking for some entries and some confirmations. So first area that does pop up to me for Euro Pound is this prior high here, broke through with a lot of momentum. You can see we are making these higher lows here, 1, 2. Now I'm looking also at this area here as well. So I want to see some pullbacks for Euro Pound. Preferably, this is my favored level because it's deeper, risk will be better, and it also does line up with that 0.618, which gives me even more confluence. So this is really the level that I want to see Euro Pound come into. But again, we might not have that deep pullback. I think maybe the 0.382 Fibonacci level, which I don't really use yet, it does come up into that resistance there. So we could see a bounce from that level, but again, I like to have deeper retracements. So I don't normally look at, I don't ever look at 0.382, 0.5 and below is where it's at for myself. But yeah, Euro Pound corrections, looking at 0.9 into that level or 0.88500. And yeah, looking at buys and just following that momentum to the upside, it looks like Euro Pound's picking a direction. It would be a hell of a move if this is a fake move. And now we're just looking to follow that momentum simply back to highs, nothing more complicated than that. So yeah, Euro Pound added back to the watch list. If we can get a nice little pullback into one of those two levels, we'll be looking for entries on the hourly time frame and yeah, buying it back to highs. Okay, so now onto AUD/USD. So this one plummeted to the downside here, breaking through some structure. We formed a high low this week, another drive to the upside, taking out these highs. However, that was short-lived. The market came straight back down and wiped out these lows off the back of the NFP. So again, for AUSD, I've been calling out shorts for this one for quite some time, looking for the big reversal. I haven't been looking to actually short the market because we've been, consistently pushing to the upside, consistent higher highs and higher lows. So I don't have that structure to short just yet. But obviously from my studying of the higher time frames, I know that market likely is going to come all the way back down and test the support level and probably even go lower. So I do expect this bearish trend to continue on the higher time frames, which is why I've been looking for that lower high. And I think it may be the case, in terms of probability at least, that we are forming that next lower high. We've got the high over here, form that drive to the downside, nice little pullback, lovely lower high over there. Now we've had another pullback, third lower high, really nice bearish engulfing down the weekly, and now I'm expecting to see the next push to the downside. So for me, for AUSD, it looks like my shorts could be coming into fruition right now. The market has broken structure, so I'm loving that. We've got some great confluence on the weekly with the bearish engulfing, also a retest of a very key level here as well. So lovely broken support down the left. As we can see, support, 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 support. Now flip resistance. So we've got a lovely key level, obviously with the trend line I just drew. The market is in a really nice place where we could look to actually reverse. And now we've actually got the break of structure and the full H as well. So now the lower time frames are following, which is what I want to see. So now I can start looking for my short. So first level I'll be looking at is the break and retest of this. This is kind of like a double top pattern. One high, second high, snapping through the neckline. So if we get a retest of this, we'll be looking for some sales to the downside. Or if you do come a little bit higher as well, I'm keen on this level here as well, 1.70500. Got some better fib confluence in that level there too. So for me, for AUSD, it looks like the higher time frames are forming that lower high. 4H looks like it's falling through with it with the break of structure. Now we're just looking for that next lower high. Market's been making consistent higher highs, break of structure. What do we expect now? A lower high to form. So these are my two areas of interest for that lower high to form. Of course, we'll monitor price action when we get there in the week. Well, if we get there, we could just keep plummeting. But if you do pull back into these areas, we'll monitor for that next lower high. Targets, again, I'm not going to be looking to target all the way down here in one go. You could theoretically do that if you want to, but again, trading is not about being right all the time, something crazy like that. Just banking consistent profits is much better than trying to hit home runs all the time. So coming to this level here, it definitely has to be at least, it will be depending on risk to reward. If the risk to rewards are not quite there for me, this will definitely be a level which I take some partials at. As you can see, a lot of resistance, support, support. This is definitely a level that I'll consider looking to either exit the trade completely or at least take partials. If the risk to rewards not quite there, then I'll probably target this level here. A lot of bullish momentum from this area at 0.67 600. So this will definitely be my TP if this isn't. And again, looking for it from up there too. So yeah, for me, AUSD sell looking good, just waiting for some pullbacks and some confirmations. Those are my two levels of interest, 0.69, I call it 0.7 and obviously 0.70600, targets being 0.6877 and also 0.67800. So that'll be the plan for AUSD going into next week. And now onto NZD CAD. So NZD CAD plummeted to the downside this week. I was looking at buys coming into the week from the retest of this level. It was a little bit messy here. The market did break below, then it did get back above. So we did see a really nice move from this level, and now we've actually shattered straight through it. So NZD CAD for me looks like it's finally going to hit that high time frame level. I've been looking at price to test 0.83 for quite some time. We've had some lovely upside, and now it looks like that lower high is forming. So I'm still looking at 0.83 for NZD CAD, and now I'm just looking for some pullbacks to get it. You can see we had really lovely momentum here to the upside, but it failed to form a higher high on the daily chart, and now it looks like we are likely to take out these lows rather than suddenly push bullish and take out those highs. So 0.83 is my target. You can see here the minor lower highs there. So I've got the high over there, next lower high, next lower high, next lower high. So all we're looking for at NZD CAD is that next lower high, and probability wise, if you do get a pullback, this is most likely where we're going to do it. We could push a little bit high into here. I'm not too sure if we'll get that much of a pullback. If we do, the risk will be a lot kinder to us. But I am looking at some shorts at 0.855 and also 0.8618. Would also watch out for this low here. That could be potentially a target to have, or of course you can push it to 0.83 if you're feeling a little bit more braver. But yeah, shorts look good for NZD CAD. I'm really loving the structure here with this one. I'm seeing really nice momentum. Again, a big advocate of when you are looking to trade structure, make sure it's with momentum and the lower highs and higher lows and whatever direction you're trading are clear. You know, structure's all well and good. You know, when you're trading it in the direction it's going in, but if you're always trading choppy or, you know, difficult structure, corrective structure, you're not going to see the results you want to see. You want to be making sure you're picking the structure that actually makes the most sense. And NZD CAD looks very, very nice right now. So we'll be looking at pullbacks for this one. You know, those are both my levels of interest. Hopefully get some pullbacks there. It's looking quite bearish, so the chances are we might actually go and test the level and then pull up, or we might pull up straight away. Depends how the market opens, of course. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at for NZD CAD, and long-term targets 0.83 down there. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So we had a really nice downside move this week, which was expected. We were looking for shorts coming into the week, but it didn't really give me a clear entry. And again, like I said, I was looking for very high quality setups and I didn't get it. Pound NZD did come into the trend line, you know, it did double top out, which is what the setup was, which I gave out last week. And it did sell quite aggressively, but you can see it was working around everywhere. Had some news coming up when we had pound interest rates and Fed interest rate decision around that time, you know, going into the shorts. So I was a bit reluctant to enter the trade. Obviously it did play out well, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. There's another good opportunity coming for pound NZD, I do believe. Market's starting to wick out here to the downside on the weekly time frame at this level of support. I've been calling for 1.88 with pound NZD, but it looks like the market's really struggling to get there. A bunch of wicks here to the downside. We had a lovely fake out a couple weeks prior, so I was expecting that liquidity grab there to the upside to actually have us follow through to the downside and come a lot deeper. But now actually getting some wicks here to the downside, which showed to me that actually the market is failing to go lower, and most likely actually going to get a push and a reversal to the upside. So for pound NZD, I know the current structure is still bearish. The market's still making these lower lows and lower highs in this channel, but I do expect to see a breakout pretty soon for us and a bigger move to the upside. Got a very key level here which we never retested at 1.96. You can see lovely level of support, big breakout of a lot of momentum. I do think the market's going to eventually come back and retest that resistance. Obviously there will be some targets we have before that, but yeah, pound NZD, I do think there'll be a big breakout. For now, there could be some sells in here, you know, breaking retest of that support, coming to that trend line. There might be some nice sells to come back down again, possibly for another swing. But because we are getting these aggressive sell-offs followed by, you know, big recoveries, aggressive sell-offs followed by a big recovery, we're getting these V-shaped patterns which tell us that most likely we are going to get the reversal out of this huge corrective structure. So personally for me, I'm actually waiting for the break of this hike here, because not only will we actually break out of the trend line, we're actually breaking through resistance and we're actually breaking structure. You know, this is our last lower high in the market, which gave us our most recent low. The market breaks through that. Not only does it break through structure, break through the trend line, break through resistance, it really does tell us that the market most likely will be looking to reverse. Clear targets back at these highs. Obviously, we do have the higher target up there. But in terms of risk reward, we'll probably get a very nice one. Drop to the hourly, maybe 30-minute if you want to maximize that. But push these highs looks very good for me. So yeah, pound NZD longs look good. Obviously, a lot needs to happen before we actually do get those longs, because we do actually need to break through resistance and break through structure. So it might be a setup later on the week, or it might not even materialize to the week after. But I know for me, I'll be focusing on the break and retest of 1.915 and buys up to 1.938. So that's the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so CAD yen up next. So again, this one, another JPY pair has been consolidating. A lot of the JPY pairs have been consolidating. CHF JPY, CAD yen, USD JPY, Euro JPY, all these yen pairs have been consolidating. And maybe next week we might get the breakout, which appears like. Okay, so over to CAD yen. So another yen pair which has been consolidating. If you go through the yen pairs, a lot of them on the 4H time frame at least has been consolidating. Euro yen, CHF JPY, CAD yen, USD JPY, they're all being consolidated, so which tells me that the yen pairs are sooner or later going to pick a direction, and we could be seeing a lot of momentum. Whether it's to the downside or to the upside is still yet to be said, but for this one I will be waiting for some buying opportunities. Looks like the market is finally breaking out of this bearish trend here. Corrective move. It has been quite bearish for quite some time, and it looks like the market is breaking out. So it's not the cleanest breakout in the world. It's not something that we've come into the trend line and just snapped straight through. Kind of consolidated out this trend line, broke through it a couple times, broke back below. So it's kind of been a little bit confusing. But if I just draw a box around this, if we can snap through this with similar momentum to what we've seen at the back of NFP, nice little break of that, see new highs past that point there. Now we can look for some correction to actually follow that to the upside, because you've got this low here. This potentially is our higher low. If we do break through this, and then we'll look for the correction on the retest of the high of it, which is around 98. So buys above, this is a very similar opportunity to USD JPY. So for both of those yen pairs, I do want to see a bit more upside before I start looking for my entries. I kind of want both of them to push a little bit further, break through their prior highs, and then I'll start looking for my entries for CAD yen and USD JPY to the upside. This one, in terms of targets, we've got a nice lovely resistance level there. We've got big consolidation over here as well. Probably kind of refine it to the high of the resistance there, because this level here is pretty much lining up below the consolidation. So we're kind of looking at two stages, 99,266 and 100,910 up there. Nice little targets to work with. So CAD yen, unless we snap to the downside and break the lows of this level here, then we can look at shorts underneath it and just anticipate the bearish trend to continue. But if we are getting the breakout here, we do want to see that resistance there break. So yeah, buys above the resistance, the consolidation around 97,900, 98. And then yeah, we'll be looking at buys and targets back at 100,778 for next week. Okay, so over to pound. So pound USD melted to the downside this week. We had a lot of consolidation for this one quite some time, struggling to break through the resistance here. Again, I've been saying that the market is still bullish for us. We're still seeing higher highs and higher lows, but we're getting a lot of signs that the market's failing to break through these highs. So it is a bullish trend, but it's definitely a bullish trend that we don't really want to keep buying unless maybe in the lower time frames or something, looking to take advantage of that range. But it definitely is a bullish market that is starting to run out of steam. All it took was NFP for really us to get the breakout. In fact, we had the pound news, which kind of gave us the break to the downside out of the lows of the consolidation, and NFP really got things flying there to the downside. So if I zoom out, it looks like we are getting, if I go pretty daily chart, it does look like we are getting a major low high forming. This does look like a potential double top pattern, and looks like the market may be starting to give us that reversal, which kind of lines up with the bias I have for dollar. Looking for these dollar pairs to reverse, EURUSD, AUD, USD CAD potentially, if we can break through some structure. NZD USD, pound USD could be on its way as well. So I do think there's a lot more downside for these pairs. And now we just want to look for some correction. We have a lot of momentum here. This is kind of momentum that we want to follow. And this is the next area that kind of grabs my attention. Obviously, this would be very nice, but it would be a hell of a pullback if we were to come and retest 1.22793. Theoretically, that's the best place for me in terms of confluence and where I want to short from, but we may only see a pullback, something like this, test of that area, and then the continuation. So we have to be able to react and adapt. But if this is going to be a major double top pattern, you expect it to come back to the neckline, which will be this support low. This is our last kind of swing that attempted to break through the highs. So I would imagine the market to come back and retest that support. So now we're just looking to follow this momentum after a nice healthy correction. Two areas that I'll be looking at for pound USD, 1.22, pretty much 1.22 on the dot, and also the low of the consolidation there, 1.22700. And yeah, shorts back down either to where this pulls back from. So if the market starts pulling back here, this could be a nice target, or that could be a nice target too. Just depends on your risk reward and what you're looking for. But yeah, pound USD bearish bias, lovely momentum, failed to take out those highs, so it does look like sellers are stepping in strong. A lot of bearish momentum, just want to see a pullback and follow that momentum for next week. So that's the plan for pound USD. Okay, so pound CAD, a lot of downside momentum similar to pound USD. Pound pairs were kind of getting beaten up last week, and as you can see, this is the aftermath. Price tried to rally to the upside of this week and last week quite a few times. Kind of a similar setup to NZD CAD. You can see the lower highs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markets trying to rally, but each time it's failing and coming back down. So this tells me that NZD CAD could be seeing some more upside. The fact that we failed to make a new high past that last major high means that this low here is most likely to be taken out. So pound CAD, just looking for some retracement next week. There's a couple of areas I'm looking at. Breaking retest of this low here, looking also at this low here. This would be a little bit better area, have some nice confluence going through that area too. So this would be a very, very nice pullback indeed if we were to get a big push into that and then another sell-off. But price is looking quite bearish. We might only see a slight pullback at the start of the week, then we could just continue straight back down. But again, pound CAD, pound USD, both pound pairs and both seeing a lot of momentum that, as traders, we want to look to follow. So just looking for the best levels possible, best areas possible with confluence that we can look to, get involved in the move. And 1.625 and 1.643 are the best areas that I can see for pound CAD, sorry. So looking at more downside on the higher time frames, we are rejecting a very key level on the monthly here, which could give us a nice push, back down to these levels here. This level of support on the monthly time frame at 1.59, 1.6. So I do think even past the low where we're trading, we can probably go further and test the support. But again, this is definitely a low that we probably just want to exit our trade at. So, that's probably the target we'll have if the risk reward allows it. If not, we might push it a little bit further to 1.6. But consistent lower highs for this one and lower lows, just looking to kind of continue that trend off. Either one of the areas look good, place looks to start looking for some entries. And yeah, targets back down at those price swing lows here at 1.61 for next week. Okay, so over to pound yen, the next JPY pair. So pound yen still for me, direction is unclear. You can see on the daily chart, the market is still obeying this level of resistance here, price support term resistance. So we're still rejecting that, which means I do think pound yen potentially could break to the downside, but also we are respecting support too. So for me, this is just really a range that you can take advantage of from the highs and the lows. Look to sell high and buy low. Essentially, if we do see potentially another stab at 156, we could probably see another push back to the upside, or if we do come back up again, could see another rejection, and there could be some nice sales to be had up at those highs. So for me, for pound yen, I'm not really looking at it too much because it is ranging and there's a lot better pairs out there in terms of momentum, in terms of structure, in terms of confluence as well, that do follow my plan and fit my criteria a lot better. So pound yen for me probably will be on the back burner, but if you are looking for ranges and just to sell high, buy low at key levels of support and resistance, pound yen is definitely the pair for you. So keep an eye on 161, pretty much 161, and also 156 down here to sell and buy from. In this area, I kind of would stay away from pound yen. I know there is a little bit of a level passing through here, support, but it's not really a high probability area you want to get involved at in the middle of a range. You want to be making sure you're having safe stop losses, above highs and below lows. So that's kind of my thesis for pound yen. Continue to range until we finally get the breakout, and once we do get the breakout, that's the type of momentum I want to follow. But for now, just looking at ranges and targets, you can look at a midpoint for the range. So if I do whip out fib from the low, the high to the range, 50% is around here. Ooh, did not mean to do that. 50% is around here. Again, this is not probably actually 50%, but more or less 50%, around 158,500. That could be a good first TP to have. So if you buy low, first TP there, and then take the rest of your profit at the final TP, which is the high of the resistance, and same thing vice versa, going from the high back down again. So that's my plan for pound yen going into next week. Okay, so now on to gold. So gold was not messing around this week. Big push to the upside, taking up the liquidity above the highs and below the lows here. But now that we've got this very impulsive, aggressive move for gold, it does tell me that gold potentially might see some more downside now. Looking at the higher time frames, I do still expect gold to 2K, and I did say I am looking at a bearish week or two for gold. We've had consistent bullish weeks here to the upside, big moves, so I'm looking for at least 1 or 2 bearish weeks for a pullback just to keep things healthy. And now that we have had this massive bearish engulfing candle there with a lot of wicks to the upside, I do think we can probably see another bearish week here, and I'm looking at this key area here as a level where gold could potentially come to, and then maybe bounce to the upside as well. And now we're also coming into this level here too. So gold is coming into some key levels of support around 1870 and also 1800-ish. Those are my two kind of major levels where gold could potentially come into and potentially go bullish again, because the market is still pretty bullish even despite this big down move here. You know, I do think since our last kind of major pullback was over here, I do think eventually the market probably will start attacking to the highs again for gold. So coming into this week here, sales do look good on the retest of this level here. We broke through with a lot of momentum there. So if you can get a nice little pullback into this area, looking for the retest of that structure, I do think get some nice sells there. Nice little target straight back into that support level. I wouldn't push it that far, but you know, feel free if you want to. But you know, keeping it simple, back to that 1870 level, key support there, key resistance. Don't want to get too greedy or too confident in the trades there. So that's what I'm looking at for gold. I do think even this zone here, that nice little consolidation before we had that big breakout due to NFP, just above the 0.5 could be a nice little level there. We might potentially wick into that level or break through and test that consolidation, then drop. So do be aware of that consolidation around 1900. That can also be a very nice place to sell gold from. But yeah, gold for next week, just want to see a pullback and then follow that momentum to the downside. And I think eventually, maybe after a week or two, we might actually be starting to form a higher low soon to come back up again. So I do expect gold to go bullish later, but I think maybe the week or two we probably see some more downside. So for now, we've broken through structure. I'm definitely bearish on the full H time frame for gold and looking for that pullback and the next continuation to the downside. So we'll be looking at pullbacks at 1900 and also 1912, and targets will be back at 1817, 1860 for next week. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still more corrective behavior, coming into some really key areas. I mean, speaking about Bitcoin around this 24K mark, saying it's a very good place to start looking for some sells and a good place we could actually see a dive to the downside for Bitcoin. And it does look more and more likely the more we keep up with this very, very corrective behavior into this zone. Every time we get a spike into that zone, the market pulls back very, very quickly and very aggressively. And you can see we had all this momentum here to the upside, and now that's starting to dry out. And this is typically where the sellers are going to start getting involved. Reason being, we had this huge bearish swing to the downside, form of those lows, pull back to the upside, lower high, move to the downside, lower low. You know, this is our lower high. So this is an important structure here for Bitcoin, which if we can hold, you know, we could actually see a big dump back down again. So yeah, Bitcoin for me, sellers are still looking good, and this is definitely where you want to be looking to sell from. I said during one of my analysis last week that, you know, every time you do see a spike into this level, some aggressive wicks, that could be a nice entry to take the trade. I was speaking about this big wick here. That could be a nice little entry to take the trade. Stop loss above. It's definitely a bit more of an aggressive trade because we're trading off a higher time frame zone, and definitely where the market is still kind of bullish on that time frame we're trading, the full H. So the sell is definitely aggressive, but it's definitely, you know, if you manage your risk well, it could give a really good risk to reward if the market does fall. So for Bitcoin, again, if you do see another stab into this area, another big wick rejection on the full H, again, I wouldn't go lower than the full H to sell Bitcoin. Maybe if you're going to go for a bit more of a need to tidy setup and a break and retest of some area, but if you're just going to focus on the major swings for Bitcoin, I would say lowest you want to go is the full H time frame, and then we can be looking at maybe another big sell off to the downside, target being this level of support, this consolidation, maybe even further down those lows here. But I think those make the most logical targets to start banking some profits. So yeah, Bitcoin, if you can give another stab to the upside, you can take out these highs. You can see every time you do take out high, big wick, come back down, take out the high, big push, come back down, take out the high, big push, wick, come back down. If we do that again, another big rejection, I'll expect us to come back down, because we are still trading in that zone, of course. So yeah, Bitcoin looking for another push higher, and then we'll be expecting price to fall back down. Targets back at that key support 22,500, then that consolidation at 21K. And last but not least, our bonus pair, which is for this week, silver. So silver is looking like a very similar opportunity to gold, but I actually do prefer this a lot more than gold for the shorts anyway. Gold's kind of coming into a key level of support in the higher time frames, whereas silver in the higher time frames is a lot more going for it in terms of confluence. If I quickly go to the weekly chart, you can see, if I paint the picture here, the market's had a really strong bullish move, trying to continue higher. We've had 1, 2, 3 attempts. Market failed, broke to the downside, gave us a lower high, sorry, with a lower low here, and now potentially we're in that same vicinity where we could form another lower high and come back down again. If I whip out the old trend line tool, you can see we've got high over here, second lower high, third, and potentially fourth, and we are rejecting a pretty key area here as well. You can see prior support across here, resistance there, support there briefly, and now resistance there again. So silver could actually bomb all the way back down to the lows here, maybe even come back and we test that resistance there, turn support. There's many places where silver could come into, but from a high time frame perspective, it's a very, very strong weekly candle close. So we know that if we drop to the daily, 4H, hourly, we've got a lot of time frames on our side for these shorts, and we've had a really big consolidation here, followed by one more big push to the upside, which turns to be a big kind of liquidity grab, taking out these highs, big fake move, big false move, kind of faking a lot of people out at those highs and then plummeting to the downside. So this is a huge consolidation, which if we can get a retest of, I do think there'll be shorts there. We'll be looking very, very good at 23.2, but just kind of take that back down again, a retest of this level of support. If we can get a retest of that, I'll be more than happy to short silver. In my eyes, a lot better of opportunity than gold. And targets for this one, we can be utilizing the prior low. If it does pull back from here, let's say, that could be a nice target to look for. You got targets over here on the left, you got targets of that prior resistance there. On the left here, you got some lows there. So there's a lot of places we can look at, and obviously, like I said, if the higher time frames, the weekly time frame for silver does play out, this might start a really nice bearish trend for us, which could go on for quite a while. Yeah, we'll wait and see for silver, if we can get the pullback or not, because it's looking very, very bearish. So the market could just continue. It might not pull back into that level. It might pull back slightly, form resistance, and then pull back into that resistance and then sell off. So we might have to adapt and find a new level midweek. This is definitely the area of most confidence. So if the market gets anywhere near here, I'll start looking for my entries. Actually, let me rephrase that. When it gets there, I'll start looking for my entries. I don't want to say when it gets near there and people get excited, start entering too early and stuff like that. But if you start seeing rejections around 23.2, I'll be looking for my entries, stop loss above, and targets. Not too sure where. We can say here for now, or even here for now. We'll see. I'll see when I get closer to taking the trade. But yeah, silver pullbacks 23.2, looking for some sells and more downside continuation next week. But yeah, guys, that is the weekly analysis for this week. I hope you have found it useful and it's a decent guide for you guys into next week. And there's a lot of opportunities off the back of so many news events this week, a lot of momentum, which is what we've been looking for. I haven't traded any dollar pairs this year, and hopefully maybe next week could be the first time I do that off the back of this momentum that we are seeing. So hopefully you can get some nice setups next week. If you're not in my Telegram, go and check it out. I post my setups there. If you have enjoyed the video, please subscribe, drop a like. It really does help out the channel, keeps you in the loop as well. Don't forget to hit the bell. Don't want to miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.